I got a master's degree in petroleum engineering in 1987. And my post-UW experience has been, actually it's an interesting ride, and my total UW experience started before I came to UW. I graduated from the University of Montana with a bachelor's degree in forestry and geology. And I was up in the snowy range outside of Laramie, just past the ski area, actually drilling a well through the granite, hoping to find some oil and gas below the granite, below the snowy range. I'll tell you right now, we didn't find any. But a professor from UW, Jack Evers, brought his class out to the rig. And I gave him a tour of the rig and showed him how the fluid system worked. And after the tour, he said, you know, that was pretty good. Do you have a degree? And I said, well, yeah, I got a degree in forestry and geology. And he replied, that'll do. And I said, that'll do for what? He says, you're an engineer. And I said, Doc, I don't think so. I've got 4 older brothers. They're all engineers. I know what an engineer is, and I am not an engineer. And he said, oh, I think you are. I want you to come into town tomorrow after you do your morning mud check, and let's talk. So I did. And the old engineering building, 4th floor, went in, and there was Jack Evers. And he convinced me that I needed to be an engineer. So he said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to work with you. You can take a lot of your undergraduate engineering classes correspondence. And I said, well, that's not going to work too well. I now live in Salt Lake City. And I travel mostly around Wyoming, but Doc, that's a long way to come for every test. And he says, well, where do you live in Salt Lake? I said, I live in the Avenues. He says, oh, I got some friends at the University of Utah. I'll send you my UW exams to the University of Utah. Just on your days off, go in and take your exams. And if you do as well as I know you can do, I'll give you a graduate assistantship if you would agree to teach our mud lab. So that's how it started. All with Jack Evers seeing in me what I couldn't even see in myself. So that was the start of my UW experience. So while I was at UW, I did 2 internships, both with Atlantic Richfield Corporation in California, in the Santa Barbara Channel. So as most things in my life, it's all upside down. So I spent my winters in Laramie, my summers in Bakersfield, California. That's ridiculous. Both years we left in a snowstorm and ended up in over 100 degrees the next day. So I can understand weather changes. And after going through those 2 internships, fortunately, the oil field's very cyclical. It was a downtime, very few jobs available. And a couple offers I had, one of them was with Shell Oil in New Orleans. So we decided to take the offer with Shell Oil. So with Stephanie and the kids and I, we all moved from Laramie down to Louisiana in 1987. And I've been here ever since. I'm kind of not the best reader in the world. In my offer letter, it said an engineer in our production department. So I thought I was going to be a production engineer. But all my experience was in drilling, working with Jack especially. And they could put me in the drilling department. And I thought, man, what am I doing here? And he said, well, you're a drilling engineer. I said, I know, but the offer letter says production engineer. Oh, our drilling department is actually in the production department. So I went right into deep water drilling in 1987. So in 1987, the first rig I went on was drilling the deepest well that was ever drilled in water depth in the world in 7,000 feet of water. So I went from living at 7,220 feet above sea level to drilling wells in over 7,220 feet of water. So I've been in deep water ever since. I was at Shell for 25 years. And then an opportunity came up to work for private equity companies that fund oil and gas in the offshore deep water. So I went to work for Log Exploration. I was there for 7 years. And now Blackstone Energy Partners has decided to form their own operating deepwater oil company. And now I'm the COO, building and leading that organization, still operating in the deepwater. So it's been a crazy ride. Actually, no, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I really thought being a mud engineer working on the rigs in Wyoming was awesome, but it's a very cyclical industry. And unfortunately, after 18 months, I got laid off. But I really liked the work so much, digging holes. You know, I used to dig holes in the backyard as a kid. I always told my dad, I'm just getting worms to go fishing. And he goes, why is there a 6-foot hole in the backyard? You know, just digging holes into the earth has just always fascinated me. So I went back to UW, got my degree in engineering, and then went to work in the deep water, and just thrilled to be out there. And in every single progression I've made in my career, it was always just because I happened to be in the right spot, doing a good job at the right time. Never really looking for a promotion, looking for the next job. One advice I got from Dr. Evers and other faculty at UW was just do the best you can in the job where you are at, and your career will grow on its own if you're working with good people. And I've been fortunate to always do so. So opportunities have always come up because I was always thrilled and happy to be doing the job where I was. I always like to tell the kids that bloom where you're planted. Don't worry about your career. I've seen a lot of people, especially at Shell, big corporation, gosh, over 100,000 employees. Some folks come in and they have a career path all mapped out in their mind. And if they're not meeting their progression and career path, they get all stressed out. They end up doing a poor job and they wonder why they didn't succeed. It's because they were too worried about the next step and they should have been concentrated on blooming where they were currently planted. Probably would have had a better outcome. I don't know whether it's excitement or a little bit of terror. As the COO, you realize that there's any operational problem that comes up, there really aren't any other experts to go lean on. You look in the mirror and you go, oh my gosh, I am the expert. So at one point in time, that's exhilarating. Another point in time, it can be a little intimidating. So you try to get really, really good people that have a real good operational mindset and very practical oriented and geared towards really keeping you out of trouble. And in this business, you know, trouble can have some amazingly bad consequences. I think we're all familiar with the disaster in the Gulf of Mexico when Macondo hit. So that is a constant reminder in this business that always pay attention to the little things, make sure you're doing the little things, the fundamentals correct, and the big problems tend to stay away. So you try to drive that home into your organization. We need to be aggressive, we need to be efficient, but at the same time, we have to always be safe. Setting expectations. So you have a board of directors you have to deal with, you have employees you have to deal with, you have partners that come in and fund a huge portion of your business, and it's an up and down business. And have one well can pretty much carry a whole entire program, and not every well is going to be successful. So it's setting up that expectation that we are going to have our setbacks and failures. We're going to have some dry holes in this business. Fortunately, we don't have that many anymore, but nonetheless, even on some of your successful holes, sometimes the costs are still over budget. You may have found an awful lot more oil and the project's still going to work. But it's setting that expectation that I need to be able to take what I would call so many shots at the basket. Not everyone's going to go in, but I'll probably make about 80%, and there's going to be 20% misses. And sometimes those 20% misses, it may be your first two shots at the basket. So hang in there. I think that's the biggest challenge, keeping it in perspective, not letting people get too excited when things are really going well, and then they get lulled to sleep and thinking, oh, this thing runs on autopilot. No, it doesn't. Or too down when you've had a couple setbacks. Back to that same statement, you know, understand there's going to be lows. Like right now, we're living in an incredible low. I think for the first time ever, two areas that are usually associated with oil, Venezuela and Wyoming. What do Venezuela and Wyoming have in common right now? Neither has an active running drilling rig. Now that was true a couple of weeks ago, and I haven't checked, but this is an incredibly low period, and it's actually a really good period to be in school. So if you can be in school acquiring talents and skills such that when the market picks up, you are there and ready to respond, that's a sweet spot. You want to really enjoy the up parts of the business. And on the downside, when the roller coaster is going down, you need to realize this is not permanent. It is an extremely cyclical industry. You're going to have highs and you're going to have lows. So just be ready for it. My first job, I mentioned after 18 months, I was laid off. That was tough. But it was really good because you understand that just getting laid off is not the end of the world in this business. Just stay in there. Stay in the game. And if you stay in the game because you like it, you tend to do a good job. And if you stay in the game in this business and you get noticed for your efforts and your accomplishments, you can now survive the downturns. And there's been a lot. And after a while, you just kind of, okay, it's all part of the game. It's always going to be an up and down industry because when prices are high, they're way high, as high as $120 a barrel, and anybody can make money. and everybody gets lulled into sleep because there aren't people who've been in the business long enough to see enough ups and downs, and they think that the downs aren't coming again, but they always do. So be able to ride out the downs and the lows. I learned the hard way in my first job. Had a nice paycheck coming in. You know how much of it I spent? All of it. So boy, that made that first downturn tough. So put some away. It's just remember the basics. Plan for the future. You're going to have some ups and downs. Have enough contingency funds set aside to ride them out. And if you do that, then the opportunities will be there if you're trained and willing and ready to go. And overall, I think you can have a great ride, but it's not going to be a smooth ride. It's probably true in most disciplines these days. Things are more up and down. I think the age where a person goes to a company like I did at Shell and was there for 25 years, and you work for one place, you get the watch and you retire, I think those days are pretty much gone. So it's going to be a lot of ups and downs. Just be prepared for it, know what to expect, and plan for it. And I think at the end of the day, you'll be a survivor.